right. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. Tonight we have a very special guest in conjunction with the National Day celebrations tomorrow. An army veteran who has an enormous experience while serving the country, which also includes serving as a United Nations military observer in East Timor under UNAMED during the country's popular consultation way back from July 1999 to June 2000. He was also seconded to the National Defence University Malaysia as a senior lecturer and subsequently promoted to associate professor. Lieutenant Colonel Ajaya Kumar is here with us in the studio to share with us his views of independence and its significance. Welcome, Colonel.
Thank you, Rin.
So please do share with us, what does independence mean to you?
Thank you, Renee. It's certainly an honor and a pleasure to be here tonight. Though the question seems very simple and straightforward, but it is not really that simple an answer. However, independence is something every nation which is colonized would look forward to, because simply, first and foremost, it gives you freedom. Okay, the freedom to choose one's path as to where one would like to head to, what areas of achievements and to be excelled in, and so forth. The next thing I would think what independence really means is it gives you the opportunity to develop in one's own potential and capabilities. Rather than be dictated by a foreign factor that tells you what you can grow or what you can manufacture and how it is to be done and so on and so forth. It means being able to access and utilize the resources, infrastructure, and human capital that are available within the nation, as well as to seek and receive support. Most importantly, I would think what independence means would be a sovereignty. The sovereignty of a nation state, its own sovereign, where no other authority or force or entity can actually tell us what we should do, what we can do, or what we cannot do. I think this is very important to be in an independent nation. We would not want to toe someone else's thoughts or will and what have you. We would like to do whatever it is that we want to do in our own mold, in our own way, based on the ambitions that our leadership and the people has envisioned, so to speak. Of course, the next thing would probably be identity. Independence gives you the opportunity to identify ourselves with the nation, perhaps, with a flag, with a name, and a lot of many things. Let me just emphasize here, for example, the glorious stripes or the Jalo Gemilang, for example. I believe that most of you who have probably traveled overseas have had the opportunity perhaps to see the Malaysian flag, the Jalo Gemilang, flying, and immediately it brings you back home. You know, the memories, the feeling, the emotion, the smell of nasi lemak maybe, you know, and or what have you kind of thing. And therefore, that is a form of identity. Another example I'd like to throw in here is some colleagues and I had the opportunity to attend a conference in Myanmar, a Nadi Track 2 conference. And late that evening, we decided to go out to the nearby restaurant for dinner. We went to the restaurant. There were three of us, actually, my colleagues, the late Colonel Ahmad Ghazali, Professor Dr. Tay Yukun, and myself. We went in, got a table, sat down for dinner, and just beside our table was, I believe, a Japanese tourist, which we found out later. And he kept looking at us, you know, the three of us, and he was having his meal and all that. And finally, we decided to say hello, and introduce ourselves and all that. And I am baffled by the fact that the question he asked us, actually, he said, "Are you by any chance from Malaysia?" And we were quite surprised, actually. And he said, "Oh, yes, we are, and why did you ask such a question?" He says, "Well, the fact that there's a Malay, there's a Chinese and an Indian, and Malaysia is a multicultural country, and even now I get goose pimples, But I think these are things that we tend to identify with our nation, an independent nation, so to speak, really. Just one little thing I would like to add here is, again, I'm not going to give any historical lessons here, but as you may have learned through history lessons and what have you, we did not go through great battles or bloodshed in order to gain our independence. We got our independence through negotiations, diplomatic channels, and in a way, a peaceful manner. I've had the opportunity, however, to be a military liaison officer and subsequently a UN military observer under the flag of the United Nations in East Timor called UNAMED. Sadly, though, what we were supposed to do was carry out a popular consultation to find out if the East Timorese people accepts autonomy, which was being offered by the Indonesian government, or reject the autonomy. However, there was another offer in the platter, that is, in the event that they rejected autonomy, they will be given independence. And that actually opened the floodgates, because during the invasion or when East Timor was made into the 27th province of Indonesia, many East Timorese actually fled to the mountains because they didn't want to be part and parcel of the Indonesian government and so on and so forth. I was surprised at their willingness, despite there was a lot of attacks, even murders, massacres by the local militia against them, their willingness to come down and vote for the ballot. Yeah.
I completely agree with you, Colonel. Being a Malaysian, I think the beauty and uniqueness of being a Malaysian is, as you said, nation identification, having that unique identity from all these melting pots of races, food, cultures, and I think that's very beautiful. And that takes us to my next question. What values do you think does the independence of a nation impose on an individual or the community?
Again, a good question, Renee. I would like to answer it in the sense that values can be dependent on historical background of an individual, the political, economic, and social context as well. But basically, I suppose we can actually sum it up to first, self-determination. All right, the fact that independence can impose the value of self-determination, the right and the ability of people to choose the path that they want to follow. Who do they want, or which party they want to be in place, and what exactly are their requirements, demands, and ambitions on the other aspects. Now, the other thing would be probably government. The ability to choose what kind of a government, which political party that you wish to put into place, and is another great aspect of being an independent nation. This is where you are not like forced into something. You are not forced to pick or select an entity or a cause that you are the least interested in, Human rights. Independence gives you the ability to actually fight for your human rights as an individual in whatever aspect, whatever color, whatever creed, whatever religion that you may be, you see. And that is, I believe, is a very important aspect in a country like Malaysia, with an identity of being multiracial and multi-religious in nature. Again, I'd like to go back to sovereignty. A lot of us sometimes take sovereignty for granted. They may even forget that it is something that we need to guard, we need to respect, we need to uphold in order to always enjoy the fruits of being part of a sovereign state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think to conclude that is to, the meaning of independence is really, as you said, having freedom, Colonel, having freedom to choose who you wish to follow, to choose your government. And I think that is most valuable in any independent nation. Now, moving on to our next question, Colonel. Now, as you mentioned earlier that you were serving in the East Timor under UNAMED, yeah? So as the military observer during the East Timor under UNAMED, can you tell us a little bit more on that? Because you mentioned that our independence was not through bloodshed, was not through a fight, and it's very interesting to know what had happened in East Timor, and you come from a country that gained independence through peace and diplomatic agreement and mutual agreement.
Yeah. Thanks, Renee, for that question. East Timor was a very a peculiar kind of mission in the sense that we went in under UNAMED to actually observe and help the United Nations civilian staff to actually carry out the popular consultation, that is to register the population and invite them to cast their ballots on the particular day, and finally to announce what was the outcome. As you may or may not know, the outcome was not readily accepted by the pro-Indonesian group, and therefore bloodshed and fight and killing took place, including massacres and what have you. That's when we changed from becoming military liaison officers to military observers.
Okay.
And we continued to observe and report.
Okay. Now, there you have it. And with that, we have come to the end of tonight's edition of Malaysia Tonight. Along with Muhammad Amin Carlos, our special guest of the evening, Colonel Ajaya Kumar, and RTM's English News Desk, we would like to wish all Malaysians a happy National Day. I'm Renee Fong, Malaysia Madani, Tekad Perpaduan Penuhi Harapan. Thank you for watching and have a lovely evening.